Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions.
That cover's so awesome.
This is Mr. Chris Claremont, a legend.
Melanie goes,
Tired.
how's it going, all you Minties? Uncanny Omar here from Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions, and join me today for my overview of the JSA Compendium Volume 1 from DC Comics. So let's go ahead and get started. And welcome back, everybody. Now, what we're looking at here is the latest compendium from DC Comics. This is the JSA Compendium Volume 1. You have Goyer, Johns, Robinson, Sadowski, Bear, and Khalees right there, JSA. These wonderful, oh gosh, I love this era of the JSA Compendium 1. Some legacy characters, some original of the JSA, and then JSA, and the same picture right there, Compendium 1, Goyer, Johns, Robinson, Sadowski, Bear, and Khalees, the DC logo. And of course, I love the fact that they picked this as the picture, because you always have to have the JSA table right there, the conference table. 3 generations of heroes, 1 legendary team reborn. Now, this is a big book. It's 1,312 pages. Now, we've had other compendiums released just recently, and even this feels a little bit different than this over here, than the Lobo Compendium. Not just in the fact that this has like a flat finish to it, but this has a glossy finish to it. Feels a little bit thicker, like the board feels thicker. But how exactly does 1,312 pages hold in this book? So we'll be looking at the build here in a little bit. But what I want to do is do a quick comparison in size to the JSA Omnibus. Again, this is an omnibus, it is a hardcover, and this is a standard size trade paperback size. Of course, a lot thicker than your regular trade paperbacks. Here's a shot of the spine using the same image as that here. One of the things about these compendiums, once you've opened them, and this does not matter to people that aren't doing videos. But once you've opened these, like, they just start popping up, the cover and the back cover. So it's hard for like me to take an image of it. So that's what's happening here. So there we go. All right. And then I'll do a thorough internal comparison, but also, talk about what is collected here that is not collected here, and how it's mapped a little bit different than over here. So let's shift the focus back to this and go ahead and get this open and talk about the stories found in here and check out this artwork and see if there's any kind of extras in this compendium. All right, let's go ahead and get this compendium open. Of course, there's no end sheet. Most of these don't have one. Compendium 1. And Compendium 1, David S. Goyer, Geoff Johns, James Robinson, Peter David, Tom Payer taking the top billing. I think a lot of people, when they immediately think of the JSA, because he was on the book for so long, they think of Geoff Johns. This beautiful piece here by Alan Davis. But Steve Sadowski taking the top billing for the art. Todd Nogg, Matthew Dow Smith, Buzz, Scott Benefield, Aaron Lepresti, Drew Johnson, Cliff Chang, Michael Baird, Yannick Paquette, Marcos Martin, Peter Gross. And just to name a few of your pencilers, your inkers over here, like Michael Baer, Steve Mitchell, Larry Stucker. Down here is some of the colorists, and there are other inkers, by the way. Colorists like John Khalees and James Sinclair, Carla Feeney, and other colorists. And then your letterers, Bill Oakley, Comic Craft, Kurt Hathaway, just to name a few. And Ken Lopez taking the top billing there. And then your collection artist, right there, Steve Sadowski, Michael Baer, and John Khalees. And then Superman, created by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster. You do have a table of contents, and let me tell you, this is huge. This is a big book. It is a big, big book. And you kick it off with All-Star Comics. And there are page numbers, by the way, just for people that are like, oh man, sometimes they put a table of contents and there's no page numbers. All right, let's go ahead and go through the content, and then we'll do a little comparison. Collected in here is JSA 1 through 25, JSA Annual number 1, JSA Secret Files number 1, All-Star Comics 1 and 2, All-American Comics number 1, Adventure Comics 1, Day of Judgment 1 through 5, Day of Judgment Secret Files number 1, Golden Age Secret Files number 1, Our Man 9 and 18, Martian Manhunter 18 and 19, National Comics #1, Sensational Comics #1, Smash Comics #1, Sense of Youth, Star Woman and the JSA Junior, Stars and Stripes 8 and 9, Star Spangled Comics #1, Thrilling Comics #1, Young Justice 16, Young Justice Sense of Youth 1 and 2, and stories from Stars and Stripes 7, Secret Files and Origins Guide to the DC Universe 2000 #1, and Young Justice Sense of Youth Secret Files. So that is what the contents of this book is. It has 1,312 pages. All right, I'm going to give you the pitch. I know I've gone through this thoroughly, and whenever I did my overview of the Omnis, or it was a retro view, I love this series. I always say that this series is a great introduction to new readers because it introduces you to the concept of legacy characters and the Golden Age. And that's what this kicks off with. This kicks off with some Golden Age storylines here. Of course, written in the modern time. And I say modern time, but this is really 1998, 1999. But yes, in here you are going to find some of these classic characters in their own comic book, and these are all a series of one-shots, but these one-shots are all connected by this villain named Stalker, and they all end kind of similar, like very similar, with a cliffhanger featuring Dr. Occult. But in here, you like the very first one is all about the character of let's get to it. All-Star Comics. It starts off with the character of Our Man, and then you get to slowly meet the rest of the Justice Society of America. And then that comic ends, but again, ends on a cliffhanger because the story of Stalker's not over. And you get to meet the character of Alan Scott, Green Lantern, and Johnny Thunder and Thunderbolt. So it's things like this. Now, these aren't the only characters that appear through here. There are other Golden Age type of characters. Again, Golden Age characters, and it is a time piece. So it's a period piece where these characters have appeared in the past. You have the Atom and Starman there, and that is the Golden Age Starman. And that is Ted Knight, who will eventually, have a son or two sons, but Jack will become the new Starman. You've got Mr. Terrific and Jay Garrick, the Flash right there. Wonder Woman and Hawk Woman, or Hawk Girl. And now that Wonder Woman, I don't want to spoil who it is. It's different than the character of Diana. And I love when they do things like that. So each one of these one-shots all ends with the coming of Dr. Occult gathering these teams. So you have Dr. Midnight here with Our Man. And they showcase like their powers. So through here, you get to meet these characters and these Golden Age characters that will have sons and daughters or nieces and nephews, or just sometimes sidekicks that will take on the role. Like this is the Sandman story with Sandy right there. And again, all of it leading into a big battle in issue #2. So these cliffhangers end and we get to this big battle. Now what this does, this is the return of the JSA. JSA has been around quite longer than this book first came out. However, if you had read 0 Hour, you know that they got rid of most of the characters of these Golden Age characters because they were like, we got to age these characters, right? They've been around since the 40s and 50s. It's time we started getting rid of some and we started making replacement characters for a few of these. So that's what happened I want to say it really was in the 90s when we did that. And then it all led into 0 Hour where a lot of these characters ended up getting aged up, retiring, or some of them ended up dying. But this is the glory days of this Golden Age team. And there's a little recap as to what happened in 0 Hour. And then we get Secret Files. So I think it was DC's way of testing the waters to see if people were still interested in these old Golden Age type of stories. I almost said Olden Age type of stories. And they were. Because then we started getting more and more people interested in 1998, 1999 for a new ongoing series featuring these characters, but not set in the Golden Age, set in modern time. So we needed some new characters show up. Like we have the robot version of Our Man. We've got Jack Knight now taking the rod and becoming the new Starman, but there's also a Star Girl. We've got a legacy, I want to call her a legacy character of Black Canary because I don't want to give away who the Black Canary in the JSA was. We have Hawk Girl, but where's Hawkman? Now, this is where things get really interesting because if you're going to ask me, does this have the exact same content as the Omnibus? The quick answer is no. This has a lot more. It doesn't have the JSA Virtue and Vice series. It doesn't have like the secret files from that series, or Worlds at War, or the JSA All-Stars. But it does have even more material than that. It's got all of the crossover of Day of Judgment. It's got all the important parts of Sins of Youth. And then it's got things like this. So this story was not here. I said I would wait to do a comparison, but let's go ahead and do a comparison quick. So when the one-shots end, they lead into the secret files. That will eventually lead into the ongoing series of JSA. And this is the ongoing series, right? Like this issue number 1. So you see that ends on the same page from the Secret Files. They include the Fate story in here. And I love that they include the Fate story. That's not included in here. So the Fate story with Black Canary is in here. So is the Alan Scott and Stargirl story. And then we get JSA 1. So it gives you a little bit more background as to who this Fate character was instead of him just appearing in the first issue of Justice or JSA. And you're like, who the hell is that guy? So it's not the only place that you're going to see things like that. You're going to see pages from other stories that help add more to crossovers or just events here. So we do kick it off with the first story arc here after the Justice Society returns big story. We have Justice Be Done. So now we've established our new team, right? We've got Dr. Fate, we've got Sand right here, who's not Sandman. By the way, you may have noticed some special appearances here from other Sandman-like characters, including the character of Dream through here. And that was with special permission because you can't just use Sandman. You've got Alan Scott, not going by Green Lantern, but going by the name Sentinel. You've got the original Flash, Jay Garrick. You've got Wildcat. You've got Hawk Girl. You've got my boy right there, Jack, as Starman. And then you've got Wonder Woman, a different Wonder Woman, and Stargirl, and then Atom Smasher there. So that's primarily your team. Eventually, other characters. Oh, sorry. Forgot about the Robot Hour Man. But other characters like Dr. Midnight will join, and characters like Obsidian will end up joining, Spectre. This has a lot of shakeups, honestly. But it does start off with a mystery. You know, some of the members of the original Justice Society are being killed off. So it's up to the legacy characters and new members, or remaining members that still haven't aged because of reasons. I don't want to spoil why. To figure out who is doing that, who is going around and killing these people. Then we get the Day of Judgment crossover. I love that Day of Judgment is in here. This is all written by Geoff Johns, by the way. Matt Smith is the artist. But it does tie heavily into the mythos of some of these magical characters in the world of the Justice Society. So I love the fact that all 6 of them, was it 6 or 5? 5, right? 5 issues of the Day of Judgment, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, it also has the Day of Judgment secret file, so that's why I thought it was 6. This is all the story that starts off with just Etrigan offering up Asmodel freedom from captivity. So it starts off as like a pure and simple type of story because this angel is in hell. And it grows into this big crossover that will feature not just the character of the Spectre, but the Justice Society, and it impacts them huge. Like, you'll see the power that the Spectre has, and then also some of the limitations now due to that big crossover. We have the return of Obsidian, who is this character that has ties to a member of the JSA. This is all the Darkness Falls storyline. And in here, you're going to see a little bit of the shakeup. Eventually, you're going to see some of these characters leave and go to their own series. This is the Sins of Youth story. I talked a little bit about this when doing the Young Justice Omnibus overview. I cannot wait for Volume 2. Where is that? And it's pretty much where Clarion the Witch Boy turns the superhero world upside down. All he does is change young heroes into old heroes, or into adults rather, and then adults into children. And that's what you're dealing with here. And you just have you don't have the whole event. You don't have the whole Sins of Youth event, but you have the Young Justice story and you have the JSA storyline. Then we start seeing some connections and relationships starting. Oh my gosh, I freaking love this issue right here with Adam. Adam Smasher became one of my favorite characters. There's another one of my favorite characters that doesn't show up until the third story arc in here, and that is none other than Black Adam. Black Adam shows up because we have the return of Hawkman that wraps up like this particular compendium. Oh my gosh, I didn't talk about the Injustice Society. I really, really like these villains. You've got them all led by Johnny Sorrow, but you also have characters like Count Vertigo, Icicle, and Tigress, the Golden Wasp, Geomancer, and oh my gosh, what is the guy's name? Blackbriar, the Blackbriar Thorn, that guy. Those characters are so. I love the character of Johnny Sorrow. I think he's such a creepy, interesting character. He's just this mask, and he's coming in with revenge. Like a lot of these characters are coming in with vengeance, right? But yes, the last story arc that is collected in here is the return of Hawkman, and I love the fact that we have that in this book because it's the return of Hawkman. It's it's a character that has been around for a long time, but we haven't had a true origin or true history of the character up until this point. And in this point, what they decided to do with the editors were like, okay, we're going to give him a new origin story. We're going to give him and the Hawk people, including Hawk Girl, a new point of entry. Like, this is the true origin of Hawkman until the next one, right? Because who are we kidding? But oh gosh, he adds such a great. I think he's such a great addition to the team. All the way in the back is the profiles on these characters. So in case you're not familiar with them, just come back here and you'll see some of the villains through here. You'll see some of the superheroes through here, and some of the new characters. In case you're only familiar with like Golden Age characters. And I didn't even talk about my dude, Michael Holt, Mr. Terrific, the new Mr. Terrific. He first appeared in the pages as Spectre, but he does end up joining the team. I think this is the first roster of the JSA. And eventually the roster will be changing. And there's the Injustice Society of the world. And you'll start seeing more and more characters appear from the Golden Age here. And these are covers through the trade paperback. Trade paperbacks. And that's it, 1,312 pages. All right, so let's talk about the differences. The big differences is that this book feels more complete. It's got, I think, material that really, really expands on these characters and these storylines. Like, while not diving too deep into something like The Flash, what's going on in The Flash during that time, or Wonder Woman, for example. But I do appreciate that they put a lot of thought into this. It's not just, hey, let's take this and make it into a soft cover. Absolutely not. It's a big book, though. We'll look at the binding here in a little bit. But as far as the paper stock, it's thinner than the glossy paper stock they're using here in the omnibus. Now, this is the first printing of the omnibus, which is notorious for having bad binding. It was so tight. It was like what I call the mousetrap type of books. But as far as the art, because of the paper stock they're using, it seems a little bit darker than over here. And of course, smaller, right? I mean, that's what the big difference is when you're looking at an omnibus to a compendium. And let's look at just a couple more pages here with some color. There we go. So you get a better idea as to what this looks like. So the book itself, like this omnibus, doesn't have like the Day of Judgment storyline. It doesn't have the Sins of Youth storyline. It just basically has the JSA stories that they think you needed. But like even the crossovers, like Our Man's not in here, or Martian Manhunter, and I think that really helps set up a lot of these other characters. So I'm glad that, like I said, they added them in this compendium. All right, that's the big pro, right? It's cheaper. It's got more stories in here, and I'm sure the books that are in here that are not collected here, like JLA, JSA Virtue and Vice, or the Our Worlds at War, will be in Volume 2, and JSA All-Stars, of course. That's the good stuff. Let's look at the binding. All right, now, as far as the build of the book itself, it is, of course, glued binding. And this is a book that I love. It is near and dear to my heart. I love the stories found in here. So for my copy, unfortunately, and it just could be mine, because I read a lot of I didn't even read the whole thing, but I read a lot of the stories in here, reread them again. Mine already has a crease down the middle. And again, this is very, it varies from people's collection. So your copy, you could have read it 4 times and it's still fine. But mine that I didn't even finish reading has a crease down the middle already. But when a book has 1,312 pages and it's a soft cover, that can be the issue with it. But these, they're still being built better. I don't have that fear that I did with like the Skybound compendiums of years ago, or those Top Cow compendiums from years ago, the softcover compendiums, where the pages are just going to start coming apart. I don't have that fear, but yes, since this is the way it's going to look on my shelf, and it's one of my favorite stories, that sucks. But anyway, could just be my copy, but I did want to point that out. So there's always a chance when you have compendiums, when it's a soft cover and you have this many pages, that something like that could happen. Again, it could just be my copy, right? I've seen plenty of comments where, hey, my copy's standing strong and I've read this thing 5 or 6 times. I don't want people to miss out on this amazing story, but I do want to be as thorough as possible when doing overviews. This, to me, I think is a great entry point to Golden Age characters, to Legacy characters. The big first chunk of the book is like, here's your Golden Age characters, and slowly introducing their, like I said, the people that will take over the role. And then when you get to JSA, it's like, here's some of those old characters and here's some new characters, and we're just going to put them together in this amazing book. And it's all about legacy and family, and I just freaking love the JSA. It's so weird to think that it was like David Goyer and James Robinson. David Goyer, who went on to write movies like Batman and Dark Knight. But James Robinson, who of course gave us Starman, and then Geoff Johns steps in and it kind of becomes his thing. You're going to have a lot of other characters that appear through here that were from the Golden Age, the Silver Age, and you don't need to know anything about them. I think Geoff Johns does an amazing job of reintroducing you to them, to those characters, and also giving you the chance to, make you kind of nostalgic for them. I did talk about the paper stock, but so it is thinner, glossy paper, and it's got, some bleed through happening. But that is it. I think I was as thorough as I possibly could be. But honestly, with even the extras, because the omnibus doesn't have a lot of extras, like the trade paperback covers, yeah, this is a hell of a deal. That, as they say, is that. If you're interested in purchasing this compendium, don't forget to check out our sponsor, cheapgraphicnovels.com, your online home for graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They have excellent shipping and prompt and helpful service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And don't forget that CGN also takes pre-orders. That way you don't miss out on the hottest releases. And they are currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, after receiving your order confirmation email, reply back to that email and let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way. They will then apply a free shipping promotional credit to your next order in the US. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. And that was the content, the page count, and build of this compendium, and of course the comparison to the omnibus. If you have any questions, leave your questions down below. Let me know which way you're going to collect the JSA books. Are you going to go the compendium route? Are you going to go the omnibus route? Are you hoping one day they'll do the DC Finest route? Or if you're just happy with your trade paperbacks, or if you've never read it, your options are, well, I don't want to say limitless, but you've got 2 options right now, or 3 if you want to find the old trade paperbacks. If you have any questions, leave your questions down below. Smash that like button on the way out. Check us out on Patreon and Spreadshop. Amazing ways to support the channel. Everybody stay healthy and safe out there. Much love.